Council, we have 43 hours before 3 warrior races declare war on humanity. And the weapon responsible is drinking a latte at Station Coffee on Level 7. Kael'thas slammed his primary manipulator against the emergency session podium, his scales rippling with barely contained fury. Around the circular chamber, representatives from 200 species stood in various states of alarm. But the 3 delegations that mattered, Vexian, Kithrak, and Zarnathi, radiated pure murderous intent. Azila, chief medical xenobiologist for the Galactic Council, projected the crisis data across every screen in the chamber. Simultaneous occurrence across 47 worlds. 312 cubs, all apex predator species, fell into unexplained comas exactly 63 hours ago. No pathogen detected, no toxin identified, no neural damage present. They simply stopped. My daughter breathes but does not wake, growled Ambassador Vexthul, his hunting claws extended despite chamber weapons protocols. Your modern medicine does nothing. Your experts stand useless. And now you tell me the creature responsible sits drinking your primitive bean water? Kael'thas raised his crest for silence, though his own hearts hammered with dread. The common factor took time to identify. All affected cubs attended the new cultural exchange program last cycle, specifically sessions led by the human educator Jennifer Martinez. She ran what she called Storytime for interested predator younglings. Storytime, Azila continued, manipulating the data with trembling digits, concluded exactly 2 standard hours before the first cubs collapsed. Martinez filed her activity report, logged out, and has been unreachable since. We tracked her personal communicator to the coffee establishment. Security footage shows her reading. Just sitting there, reading, while our children die. The Zarnathi war matron's vocal sacs inflated with rage. You allowed a human, an unknown death world species, unsupervised access to our offspring, our hunters, our future warriors. The program was approved through all channels, Kael'thas said, though the words tasted like ash. Humans passed every psychological evaluation. Their credentials were impeccable. There was no indication. Then credentials mean nothing. Vexthul's roar echoed through the chamber. Retrieve this human, immediately. If our cubs die, humanity burns. 20 minutes later, security forces surrounded the coffee shop while Kael'thas himself approached the human female seated by the window. She was small, terrifyingly small compared to most sentients. With her species' characteristic forward-facing predator eyes focused intently on a primitive paper book. Jennifer Martinez. She looked up, blinking. Oh, hi. You're Counselor Kael'thas, right? I saw you at the orientation session. Is everything okay? The casual tone, the relaxed posture, the complete absence of fear. It chilled Kael'thas to his core. Either she was innocent or the most dangerous operative he'd ever encountered. Ms. Martinez, I need you to accompany me immediately. There's been an incident involving the children from your story program. Her expression shifted to concern. Incident? What kind of incident? Is someone hurt? All of them. They won't wake up. Jennifer's book slipped from her hands. Wait, what? All of them? That doesn't make any sense. Storytime ended 2 days ago. They were fine. They were happy. Tired from playing beforehand, but happy. What do you mean they won't wake up? The genuine confusion in her voice made Kael'thas hesitate, but Azila's urgent communication beeped in his audio implant. Counselor, Cub's vitals are declining. We need answers now. Come with me. Bring everything you had with you during the program. Jennifer grabbed her bag without protest, her movements quick and efficient. Of course, whatever you need. God, their parents must be terrified. Can you tell me what's happening? What are their symptoms? As security forces closed in, Kael'thas noticed the worn notebook protruding from her bag. What is that? This? Jennifer pulled it out. Just my story notebook. I write down the tales the kids like, notes about which ones work best for different age groups, that kind of thing. Why? Azila's voice crackled through the communicator. Counselor, get that notebook to medical immediately. If she used it during the sessions, it could contain evidence. Jennifer handed it over willingly. Sure, but I don't see how bedtime stories could... Wait, did you say they won't wake up? Like they're sleeping? Sleeping? Kael'thas examined the notebook, careful not to touch it with bare scales. No. Comatose, unconscious, non-responsive to all stimuli. But are their eyes moving? REM patterns? What do their brain scans show? The specificity of her questions struck Kael'thas as odd. You'll see for yourself. Move. The medical facility was chaos incarnate. Parents pressed against containment barriers, trying to reach their cubs. Security struggled to maintain order, while medical staff rushed between monitoring stations. On 47 examination platforms, predator cubs lay motionless. Vexian hunter young with their scaled bodies completely still. Kethrak warrior offspring with their muscular forms relaxed in ways adult Kethrak never relaxed. Zarnathi apex children with their sensory tendrils limp and unresponsive. Jennifer stopped at the entrance, hand over her mouth. Oh my God, how long have they been like this? 63 hours, Azila said, approaching with full hazard gear activated. And you're going to explain why. I don't know why. I told them stories. We sang some songs. They got sleepy. Which made sense because they'd been running around burning energy. And then their parents picked them up. That was it. That was the whole program. Azila held up the notebook, now sealed in a containment field. This notebook shows impossible energy readings. What did you do to it? Jennifer stared. It's just a notebook. I bought it at the station supply store, the same store that sells those overpriced protein bars. The molecular scanner detects patterns that shouldn't exist in natural materials, rhythmic impressions, repeating neural wavelengths. What did you put in these stories? Words? Jennifer's voice climbed in pitch. Just words. Once upon a time and happily ever after and all the normal stuff. Can I see one of the kids? Maybe I can figure out what's wrong. Kael'thas nodded to security. They led Jennifer to the nearest platform, where a small Vexian cub lay unnaturally still. The cub's father, Vexthul himself, loomed nearby, radiating barely controlled violence. Jennifer approached slowly, speaking in that same soft tone she'd used in the coffee shop. Hey, sweetie, it's Miss Jennifer. Can you hear me? The monitors didn't change. The cub didn't stir. She turned to Azila. What do the neurological scans show? Is there brain activity? Extensive brain activity, Azila admitted, pulling up the data. More than we've ever recorded in juvenile predator species. But it's all internal. No motor responses, no reactions to external stimuli. It's as if they're locked inside their own minds. Jennifer leaned closer to the screens, her predator eyes scanning the wavelength patterns with unsettling focus. Then she started laughing. The sound made every being in the facility freeze. Oh my God, Jennifer said between giggles. Oh my God, you've got to be kidding me. They're not in comas. They're sleeping. Impossible, Azila snapped. Predator species don't enter deep sleep states. It's a fundamental survival mechanism. Our young especially maintain constant environmental awareness, even during rest cycles. Yeah, well, apparently not anymore. Jennifer pointed at the neural patterns. See these delta waves? That's deep sleep. And these bursts here? REM activity? They're dreaming. They're in the deepest, most restful sleep I've ever seen in my life, which is really impressive for kids who were bouncing off the walls 2 days ago. Vexthul's growl vibrated the floor plates. You dare mock us? You dare? I'm not mocking anyone. Jennifer held up her hands. I'm just telling you what I see. Your kids are sleeping really, really well, which, honestly, is kind of the goal of bedtime stories. That's literally what they're for. Azila's vocal apparatus clicked rapidly, her species' sign of extreme cognitive dissonance. Bedtime stories. You're claiming these narratives somehow overrode millions of years of evolutionary survival programming? I mean, they work on human kids. Jennifer shrugged. Make the voice soft and soothing. Pick stories with repetitive patterns. Boring narration helps. Kids fight sleep, but the rhythms kind of pull them under anyway. It's just normal? Nothing about this is normal. Azila gestured. At the medical bay. You've rendered 3 species offspring completely vulnerable. In nature, a predator cub in this state would be killed within minutes. But we're not in nature. We're in a medical facility on a space station. Jennifer's tone shifted, becoming patient in a way that somehow made Kael'thas's scales itch. Look, human children need deep sleep for healthy development. Doesn't everyone? No, Kael'thas said quietly. Predator species evolved to maintain hypervigilance even during rest. Our young especially. They need to wake at the slightest disturbance to survive. This level of unconsciousness should be biologically impossible for these species. Jennifer bit her lip. Okay. So maybe I should have asked more questions about that during orientation. But they seemed really into the stories. They kept asking for more. And afterward, they were yawning and rubbing their eyes. So I just thought, you thought like a human, Azila interrupted. You applied your species' biology to ours. Well, yeah. I'm a kindergarten teacher, not a xenobiologist. When kids are tired, you help them settle down for nap time. That's just what you do. An alert chimed across every monitor simultaneously. Azila rushed to the nearest screen, her digitigrade legs moving faster than Kael'thas had ever seen. Counselor, she said, her voice barely a whisper. You need to see this. The neural scans had changed. New patterns emerged, growth hormone production at unprecedented levels, synaptic connections forming and strengthening, immune system responses calibrating to new efficiency parameters. What am I looking at? Kael'thas demanded. Development, Azila breathed. Accelerated neural development. The cub's brains are reorganizing, optimizing. This is, by the void, this shouldn't be possible. Jennifer leaned over their shoulders. Oh, that's normal too. Human kids' brains do most of their growing during deep sleep. That's why sleep is so important for development. Is that not a thing for you guys? It is not a thing, Kael'thas said slowly, because we have never experienced deep sleep like this. Our rest cycles are shallow. Survival demanded it. So your kids' brains never got the chance to do this kind of development? Jennifer's expression shifted to something like sadness. That's actually really sad. Sleep is when everything processes, when memories consolidate, when the brain clears out toxins and repairs itself. You're telling me none of your species get that? We get adequate rest. Do you, though? Jennifer challenged. Or have you just been making do with partial rest for so long that you think it's normal? Azila's manipulators trembled as she pulled up comparative data. If these readings are accurate, if the cubs maintain this developmental trajectory, they'll wake with cognitive capabilities 30 to 40% higher than baseline predictions for their age cohorts. Yeah, well-rested kids learn better, Jennifer said. Any teacher could tell you that. Vex Thule, who had been silent during the exchange, spoke with deadly quiet precision. You're saying my daughter is smarter because of what you did. I'm saying she's well-rested, which means her brain could work the way it's supposed to work. But I still don't understand why she won't wake up. Human kids sleep 8 to 10 hours, maybe 12 if they're really exhausted. It's been more than 2 days. Perhaps, Azila said carefully, because their species have never experienced true deep sleep before. Their bodies don't know when to stop. The implications hung in the air like a detonating star. Oh, Jennifer said quietly. Oh no. Did I break your kids? The emergency research team assembled in record time. Zilax, the council's foremost expert on predator sleep physiology, a field he'd considered thoroughly explored until today, arrived within the hour, his sensor array already scanning the sleeping cubs. Impossible, he muttered, reviewing the data. Completely impossible. The hypervigilance response should engage. External threats, environmental changes, parental calls. Something should trigger awakening. We've tried everything, Azila confirmed. Physical stimulus, chemical intervention, neural pulse sequences. Nothing works. Zilax turned to Jennifer, his compound eyes reflecting fractured images of her confused expression. Explain your methodology. Every detail. Jennifer shifted uncomfortably under the attention of a dozen species' foremost medical experts. Okay. So I'd have them sit in a circle. We'd start with some active songs to burn off energy. Head, shoulders, knees, and toes. Stuff like that. Then when they started getting tired, we'd transition to story time. I'd use my quiet voice, the one that's kind of sing-songy but not too exciting. And I'd pick stories with repetitive structures. Repetitive structures, Zilax repeated. Elaborate. You know, like Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Someone tries something 3 times, the pattern repeats. It's predictable and soothing. Or cumulative tales where you add one element each time. The house that Jack built kind of thing. The rhythm and repetition create a pattern that... She paused. That, I guess, overrides whatever instincts tell you to stay alert? Demonstrate, Zilax demanded. On who? On me. Kael'thas started to protest, but Zilax waved him off. If this human's voice contains some property that bypasses our neurological defenses, we must understand it. Proceed, human. Jennifer looked distinctly uncomfortable. I feel like this is a bad idea, but okay. She pulled a small chair over and sat down, then gestured for Zilax to position himself nearby. In her soft, melodic teacher voice, she began. Once upon a time, there were 3 bears who lived in a house in the woods. There was a great big papa bear, a medium-sized mama bear, and a tiny little baby bear. Kael'thas watched in horrified fascination as Zilax's sensor stalks began to droop. The sleep specialist's mandibles relaxed. His defensive posture softened. One morning, they made porridge for breakfast, but it was too hot to eat. So they decided to go for a walk in the woods while it cooled down. While they were gone, a little girl named Goldilocks came walking through the forest. Zilax's eyes began to close. His breathing deepened. She saw the bear's house and knocked on the door. No one answered, so she walked right in. On the table, she saw 3 bowls of porridge. A soft snore interrupted Jennifer. Zilax, the council's foremost expert on sleep, standing upright on his 6 legs, was asleep. "Holy shit," Jennifer whispered. "I didn't think that would actually work on an adult." Azila rushed forward with her scanner. Neural activity dropping into deep delta wave patterns. Hypervigilant systems completely offline. He's as unconscious as the cubs. Kael'thas felt his blood run cold. "Wake him, now!" They tried. Physical contact. Nothing. Loud sounds. Nothing. Neural stimulators. Nothing. Jennifer bit her lip. When human kids are really deeply asleep, sometimes you just have to wait it out. Forcing them awake can be traumatic, and we don't have time to wait, Kael'thas roared. Every hour those cubs stay under, 3 warrior cultures come closer to declaring war. "Well, I don't know what to tell you," Jennifer shouted back. And Kael'thas realized with a start that the human was crying. "I'm just a kindergarten teacher. I read stories to kids. I don't know how to fix whatever this is. I didn't mean to hurt anyone." The outburst seemed to drain her. She sank into the chair, her small frame shaking. "They were just babies," she said quietly. "They were so excited about stories. They'd never heard fairy tales before. They loved them. And now I've put them all in comas and started an interstellar incident, and..." A sound cut through her spiral, a small, chirping sound. Everyone turned to the nearest examination platform. The Zarnathi cub's tendrils were twitching. Its eyes flickered open, still groggy, still emerging from deep sleep, but definitely waking. "Mama?" the cub chirped. "Are we doing more stories?" The Zarnathi war matron nearly collapsed against the containment barrier. "My spawn, you're awake, you're..." She stopped, sensor tendrils quivering. "What did you say?" "More stories," the cub repeated, stretching in ways young Zarnathi simply didn't stretch. Loose, relaxed, unself-conscious. "Miss Jennifer tells the best stories. Can we hear the one about the 3 goats again?" Across the medical bay, other cubs began stirring. Slow, natural awakenings. The kind of gradual transition from sleep that predator species never experienced, because their hypervigilant systems triggered instant alertness at the slightest stimulus. But these cubs woke softly, peacefully. Their first words weren't threat assessments or location. Confirmations. They were questions about breakfast and requests for more stories. Azila's scanner nearly fell from her shaking grasp. Vital signs optimal. Neural functions 43% above baseline predictions. Immune system responses enhanced. Muscular coordination improved. They're better than they were before. Vexthul pushed through the barrier, protocol be damned, and gathered his daughter into his hunting arms. She nuzzled against him without the typical prey-scanning behaviors young Vexians displayed upon waking. "Papa, I had dreams," she said, wonder in her voice. "Real dreams. Stories that played in my head while I slept. Is that normal?" "No, little hunter," Vexthul said, his voice thick with emotion Kael'thas had never heard from the warrior. "But perhaps it should be." Within the hour, all 312 cubs had woken naturally. Medical scans confirmed what Azila had documented. Every single child showed marked improvements across all developmental metrics. Their cognitive functions had leapt forward. Their physical coordination had refined. Even their emotional regulation, something predator species struggled with due to constant hypervigilance, had balanced into healthier ranges, and Zilax woke 43 minutes after falling asleep, looking more refreshed than he'd felt in decades. The emergency session reconvened, but the energy had shifted dramatically. Instead of fury, the 3 warrior delegations radiated something between shock and desperate hope. Explain, the Kethrak war leader demanded. How this is possible. Our greatest minds have studied sleep for millennia. We've accepted our limitations as evolutionary necessity. And this human, this teacher of younglings, accidentally achieves what we thought impossible. Jennifer stood at the center of the chamber, still looking overwhelmed. I don't know your science. I just know that on Earth, every culture has lullabies, songs and stories to help children sleep. We've been doing it for thousands of years because it works. The patterns, the rhythms, the repetition. It helps young brains shut down the vigilant systems and just rest. But we evolved not to do that, Azila interjected. Our survival depended on maintaining awareness. Sure, when you lived in the wild, but you don't anymore. Jennifer gestured around the chamber. You built space stations and medical facilities and protective societies. Your cubs don't need to wake at every sound because you've created environments where they're safe. But your biology hasn't caught up to that reality. Kael'thas felt something fundamental shift in his understanding. You're saying we've been limiting our own development because we couldn't let go of survival mechanisms we no longer need. Maybe. I'm really not qualified to make these kinds of judgments. But I know that human kids who don't get enough sleep have developmental delays, behavioral problems, health issues. And if your kids have never experienced real sleep. Jennifer trailed off, letting the implications speak for themselves. Zilax rose from his seat. The human is correct. I've spent my career studying sleep, and I've been studying the wrong thing. We've been examining shallow rest cycles and calling it complete. But this, he gestured to the data streaming across the screens. This is what sleep is supposed to do. This is what we've been missing. The question, Vexthul said slowly, is whether we can replicate it. Whether our cubs can continue to benefit from this true rest. All eyes turned to Jennifer. Oh no, she said. No, no, no. You want me to write more stories, run more programs? I'm just one person, and there are billions of you across dozens of worlds. Then teach others, the Zarnathi war matron suggested. Share your knowledge. Show us how to help our young achieve this gift you've given them. It's not a gift, it's just basic childcare, Jennifer protested. But Kael'thas could see the moment she realized they weren't going to let this go. Okay, fine. But I'm going to need help from your medical people to understand what I'm working with. And we need to test this carefully. Maybe the cubs can learn to wake themselves after a reasonable time period, like training a sleep schedule. We have centuries of sleep research you can review, Zilax offered. Now that we know what we were missing, perhaps we can bridge our knowledge with yours. And you'll need security, Vexthul added. If word spreads that a human can render predator young completely vulnerable, there will be those who see you as a threat rather than a benefit. Jennifer laughed, but it had a slightly hysterical edge. A month ago, I was teaching human kindergarteners their ABCs. Now I need security because I accidentally fixed alien sleep patterns. This is the weirdest job upgrade ever. Kael'thas approached her, his posture as non-threatening as his species could manage. Ms. Martinez, you've stumbled onto something that could change these species fundamentally. Cubs who can achieve true rest will develop into adults with capabilities their ancestors couldn't imagine. This isn't just about sleep. It's about evolution. I just read them Goldilocks, Jennifer said weakly. That's all I did. I read them a story about a girl who breaks into bear's house and eats their porridge. And that story, Azila said, contains rhythmic patterns that perfectly match human deep sleep neural wavelengths. Patterns that, when projected through your vocal modulations, can override millions of years of predator hypervigilance evolution. Whether you intended it or not, you've created something revolutionary. Jennifer looked at her notebook, still sealed in the containment field. Can I at least have that back? I've got 3 weeks of lesson plans in there. That notebook, Kalthas said carefully, is now one of the most valuable objects in the galaxy. We'll need to study, replicate it, analyze the patterns. It's literally just stories I copied from Earth children's books and observations about which kids liked which tales. Jennifer interrupted. You can find all of this on the human internet. Goldilocks is public domain. You don't need to seal it away like it's some kind of weapon. But it is a weapon, Vex Thul said quietly. A weapon that makes our young vulnerable while simultaneously making them stronger. That's the kind of paradox only humans seem to produce. 3 months later, Jennifer Martinez stood in a purpose-built facility on the Vexian homeworld, training the 12th cohort of what the Council had designated rest specialists. The trainees came from all species, some predators learning to help their own young, others from non-predator cultures fascinated by the implications. The key, Jennifer explained, holding up a well-worn copy of Where the Wild Things Are, is consistency. Same time, same routine, same soothing voice. Kids, any species of kids, need to know what to expect. The predictability itself becomes part of the pattern that tells their brains it's safe to sleep. A young Vexian mother raised her foreclaw. But the stories themselves. Must they be from Earth? Can we create our own? Absolutely. In fact, that's better. Stories that reflect your culture, your values, your history. As long as you maintain the rhythmic patterns and repetitive structures, the content can be whatever resonates with your kids. Jennifer demonstrated with a volunteer cub, reading a newly written Vexian tale about ancient hunters. Her voice wove the familiar pattern, soft, rhythmic, soothing, and within minutes, the cub's eyes drooped. And when they start to fall asleep, Jennifer continued in that same gentle tone. You just let them. Don't force it. Don't rush it. Let their biology do what it's been trying to do for millennia. The cub's breathing deepened. Parents who had been terrified 3 months ago now watched with something like reverence as their young one drifted into genuine rest. After class, Kyle Thas found Jennifer in her office, reviewing reports from various worlds. The Keithrak have reported a 40% increase in young warriors' problem-solving abilities, he said. The Zarnathi documented enhanced emotional intelligence in their youth cohorts, and the Vexian Council just published a study showing improved long-term memory formation. Good, Jennifer said, not looking up from her data pad. That's what proper sleep does. It's not magic, it's just biology finally working right. The Council wants to honor you. A ceremony, recognition for your contributions, hard pass. Jennifer finally looked at him. I appreciate it, but I didn't do anything special. I just helped kids sleep. That's the job. That's always been the job. Kyle Thas observed her for a moment. This small, soft human who had accidentally revolutionized 3 predator species and showed no interest in glory. You know, we still don't fully understand how you did it. The patterns in your stories, the modulation of your voice. Zilax has been studying the recordings for months and can't quite replicate the effect. Jennifer shrugged. Maybe it's just practice? I've been reading bedtime stories since I student taught. Thousands of hours of helping kids settle down. You develop an instinct for it. An instinct, Kyle Thus repeated. You mean you weren't consciously creating those neural override patterns? I mean, I was just trying to help tired kids go to sleep. Jennifer stood, gathering her materials. Same as every kindergarten teacher on Earth has been doing forever. We just call it story time. She headed for the door, then paused. Oh, and tell the council I'm leaving another notebook behind when I rotate back to Earth next month, full of new stories the kids have been enjoying. They can study that one too if they want. Another notebook? Ms. Martinez, the first one has been analyzed by 17 research teams, and we still haven't extracted all its secrets. Jennifer smiled. That particularly human expression that predator species still found unsettling in its casual showing of teeth. Yeah, well, I bought a whole pack of them at that overpriced station supply store. Figured I might as well use them all. She left the office, humming something. A tune that Kyle Thas's translator couldn't identify, but that made his scales itch with the now familiar urge to relax, to rest, to lower his guard in ways his ancestors would have considered suicidal. He pulled up the latest report from the Vexian Developmental Institutes. An entire generation of cubs growing up with true rest. Smarter, healthier, more emotionally balanced than any previous generation. The same pattern emerging across Cuthrak and Zarnathi populations. A soft revolution, wrapped in children's stories and a kindergarten teacher's patient voice. Kyle Thas thought about humanity's position in the galactic community. Still new, still finding their place, still surprising everyone with the casual way they violated assumptions and rewrote rules. He thought about the 3 warrior cultures who had nearly declared war on Earth, now sending their cubs to human-trained rest specialists. He thought about Jennifer Martinez, who would return to Earth next month and probably go back to teaching human kindergartners, completely unaware that she'd been designated as one of the most valuable cultural assets in known space. His communicator chirped. Another world requesting rest specialist training, another predator species wanting to learn how to let their children sleep soundly. Kyle Thas approved the request and began composing the implementation protocols. Somewhere in the facility, Jennifer Martinez was probably reading The Very Hungry Caterpillar to a mixed group of predator cubs, her voice weaving patterns that evolution had never intended, but that biology desperately needed. The predators had learned to sleep soundly, and the galaxy would never be the same. And Jennifer Martinez, humanity's accidental ambassador of rest, was already planning next week's story time. Wondering if anyone had shown these kids Goodnight Moon yet.